Hey, while you're in the first 5 seconds of the video, go ahead, like and subscribe.
Young man, what color is Jesus? You don't know. But if I ask you to show me a picture, is you going to show me a picture of a white man or a black man? You say, what? Black? You saying black as I just said that? Well, you know. You know. You be searching it up. That's good. A lot of people don't. A lot of our people think Christ is a white man. That go back to this blindness, not knowing. Next slide. So, going back to what we just read, that blindness, being mad, that mental health. A lot of us suffer from this, and we don't get no help. They'll put a basketball court in the neighborhood, but what about this? This is important. That's why you be dealing with people or talking to people and they just snapping. That's why. That's that madness that the Bible talking about. We never got help for all that stuff we went through. Next slide. Here's more images. Ms. Vanessa, I know you're familiar with who this is. That's Emmett Till. How old are you, sir? You 13. Emmett Till was 14. Emmett Till went down to Mississippi, Money, Mississippi, to visit his cousins. They made a lie. White woman lied. Carolyn Bryant lied and said that he whistled at her. Yeah, she did. She did. She lied and said that he whistled at her. She told her husband and her brother. They came and took Emmett Till out of his grandfather's house, beat him, lynched him, took barbed wire, wrapped the barbed wire around his neck, and tied it to a gin cotton fan and threw him in the Tallahatchie River. And this is how they found his body. 14 years old. They go back to what we read. Remember we read it said, a nation of fierce countenance, meaning they don't show no mercy. That's not your friend. They don't show no mercy. That's a child that they killed. Carolyn Bryant, who just died, she's supposed to went to jail for that. Am I right or am I wrong?
She admitted to it. She lied.
She admitted. They trying to lock up Bill Cosby for some women from the 70s. Who was supposedly at the Playboy Mansion or something where all of them was at, but you ain't gonna lock this woman up. The Bible tells us why these things happen. Next image right here. We shall overcome. Where the civil rights movement came from. Doing a lot of this stuff, all we was able to do was sing, march, but we didn't have the real missing piece, which was what the Bible says. We got to come back to the Bible. Not just come back to it, we got to follow it and do what God says. Martin Luther King, he tried to rise up. What happened to him? He got assassinated. He got shot at a hotel in, I believe that was Alabama. No, not Alabama. Memphis. That was Memphis. On the balcony. He actually got shot with a sniper rifle. So that man was set up in a building some feet away where he was able to aim at him and kill him. That's why the Bible says, no man shall save you. All these leaders rose up trying to save us. What happened? They all got killed. You actually had Fred Hampton. You had 2 other leaders get killed, like back to back. During the 60s, during this time, they was killing a lot of our leaders. Either killing them or giving them money. Like, man, you don't want to fight for power no more. Take this money. Get them out of the way. Next image here. Who was this? George Floyd was just talking about him. This man here leaned on put his knee on his neck and suffocated him. Nothing happened to him. You also had Eric Gardner. Remember Eric Gardner, big brother? He was in front of the store selling cigarettes, which ain't good, but was that enough to choke him out? Choke that man out. Eric Gardner had a wife and kids. These are things that happen to us. And then you see us doing this, saying Black Lives Matter. Why do we gotta say our lives matter? Because we trying to say that to the same people that did this. But the Bible just said they don't show no mercy. Next slide. Read that.
Verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Marianne, what is that saying? It's saying you shall betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Seem like somebody gonna take your wife and they gonna sleep with your wife. Nah, not cheated. Cheated is like it's willing. You got a willing participant. Nah, they know that's your wife and they come here in front of you. This happened during slavery. That's why I encourage y'all. It might not be what you like to watch, but you need to watch it so you learn your history. 12 years a slave, roots, birth of a nation, La Amistad. When you watch these movies are depicting what happened to us. Those slave masters would take your wife and sleep with your wife in front of your face. The movie The Butler. It's a scene in the slave master took his mama into the shack, his daddy picking cotton. He'd take his wife, go in the shack, rape her, come out and look his daddy up and down like, what you gonna do? Then when his father said something, slave master shot him in the head in front of the little boy. These is things that happen to us, and the Bible is showing you. What is the coincidence? Moses wrote this over 3,000 years ago and it happened. No coincidence. We are the people of God. The thing is, we didn't think that Moses was serious when he was telling us that these things was going to happen. And they happened, did they not? Read that real quick.
Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Did not we build this whole country? A lot of the carpenters be Mexican. A lot of the carpenters be black men. A lot of electricians is black men. We built this place, but do we benefit from any of it? No. Read on.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
The Native Americans, they knew how to work this land, grow the corn, but who benefited from it? The white man. He came over here and took everything. That's what Thanksgiving is about. Thanksgiving ain't about family. That's the celebration of them killing your brothers and taking his land. We should be celebrating that. These are things that, bro, I didn't know. When I was a young man, I didn't know this stuff. Once I learned, I'm like, whoa, I'm not celebrating none of that stuff. Once you dig deep, you see all the lies that they've been telling us since we was young. You a young man now. Look, seek for yourself. Read on. Next slide. Here's some images, real images. Remember what we read? Thou shalt betroth a wife, meaning you was gonna come off them slave ships. Some of us was married. He's gonna take your wife and sleep with her. This is the image. 3 young white men and a black woman, 1632. Look at this. You know what's crazy? You ever heard somebody say the term run a train? And they tell me they want to run a train on a girl. Where do you think they learned this from? We don't think about that. That stuff's subconscious. That come all the way back from slavery. That was being done to us and we never got help. And then we treat each other that way, not knowing this is how we was getting done. This is a real scene. This slave master, he raped her every night. Raped her every night. He was so crazy about her, with him raping her, he wouldn't even let her take a bath. It's a scene where he beat her because she snuck away to get some soap to wash up because he didn't want her to wash up. He wanted her to stay right in that same little shack. Then his wife, the slave master wife, hit her in the face with a shot glass. Hit her in the face. Because why? Her husband was sneaking away at night and raping her. He couldn't do nothing about it. This is what happened to us. The Bible is depicting that. Next slide. This is a real life situation right here. What they call a love triangle. But remember, where it come from? That come from slavery. This is how we treat each other today. You don't think he knew that that's his wife? He knew that. Where that come from? We learned that from slavery. Entanglement, as they say. But we learned that from slavery. No, it ain't no, yeah, I'm taking this woman. That come from slavery. Our women was getting taken from us. Now we treat each other like that. Next slide. Read that.
Verse 31. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes.
So stop right there. It says, thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes. Remember, the Native Americans was over here first. The Native Americans couldn't do anything when the white man came here and was killing all the buffalo. Couldn't do nothing. Killed their prime source of what? Eating and surviving. Read on.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away.
Didn't it say they gonna ask? What's that word? Read it again.
Thine ass shall be violently taken away.
They violently took the buffalo from our brothers. Violently. Next slide. More images. Look at this. You telling me our brothers still have buffalo to eat? These are bones. They killed all the buffalo, so now they can't build teepees. That's their houses. That's kind of shaped like a triangle that they used to have. They can't build them. They can't make weapons. They can't make tools. They can't eat. That's their prime food source. So they starved. This is what the white man did. But remember, the Bible is showing you this. The Bible is a true book. Next slide. More pictures. This is the fur. So what you think they was using the fur for? The Native Americans used to use it for what? Clothes. Now we can't make clothes. They can't make clothes for their babies, their kids. Because you came over here and you was greedy and took everything. That's why when they tell us, oh, blacks and Hispanics don't work for nothing. Work for nothing? We've been working. You ain't worked for nothing. You stole everything. Everything you have, you stole it. You have no culture. Everything that you claim to fame, you stole it all. Or we made it. It's one or the other. We made it and you lied and said it's yours, or we had it and you took it. It's one or the other. There is nothing original about it. They steal everything. Next slide. Read that verse.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
This is something that we suffered. You see this in all those movies. They'll put your whole family on the auction block. You going to New York, your wife going to Texas, your 2 kids, they going to New Orleans. Family destroyed within a matter of minutes. 35, 45 sold. How do we still go through that today? DCFS. If they kick the door in and look around your house and say you're an unfit parent, they take the kids and they gone. Majority of us, we don't have money for lawyers. It takes a lot of money to go to court. Am I right or am I wrong? Court costs money. So now you trying to get visits for your kids. Read the Bible again.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
All we can do was cry when our children was getting taken. All we can do now is cry when our children get taken and put in the foster system. There's a lot of white actresses and actors adopting our kids. And you know what they teaching our kids? Same sex. Teaching our kids to get high, dress, show their body. That's what they do when they adopt our kids. But remember, this is a curse that God said would happen to us if we did not listen. Next slide. Examples. These are examples. What is this? Peons in Puerto Rico, 1889. Puerto Ricans. And who you see standing behind? The white woman. Our kids getting taken away and sold. The Puerto Ricans, showing you what? The Puerto Ricans are who? The Israelites. The blacks are the Israelites. The Mexicans are the Israelites. We are the people of God. This happened to us, why? We did not listen. Don't forget that. Over here, same thing. Children taken enslaved. Now they show the ripped up clothes, and then they show you this as if they took them and they cleaned them up. No, you see this the after effect. They teaching them Christianity. They teaching them that the white man is God. That's what come with all that. Same thing they did to the Native Americans when they put them in boarding school. Made them cut their hair, stop wearing the feathers, the war crown on their head, and start teaching Christianity. You can look this stuff up. Next slide. Read.
Verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall another nation which thou knowest not eat up.
Who made the traffic light? I'm going to ask you, because that's middle school, elementary. Who made the traffic light? Garrett Morgan, a black man, made that. But do you think Garrett Morgan's family is benefiting from him making the traffic light? No. Exactly. We make everything here. But it said, a nation which thou knowest not is going to eat up. They're going to benefit from it. You ever heard about the man in Flint, Michigan, when the water got bad? He made a water source, and then somebody came in the middle of the night, they destroyed it. These things happen to us. The Bible's showing you battle. You know?
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
You're going to only be oppressed and crushed always. Why? Because you don't listen to God. Us as a people, we don't listen to God. You know? 34.
Verse 34. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
We're going to be frustrated, angry at the stuff that we see. But we don't know how to channel that anger. We don't know what to do. We upset, but we don't know what to do. What we got to do is come back to the Bible, do what the Bible says. Start following what it says. Not just read it, follow what it says. Next slide. So more images of our people. They cutting sugar cane. This look like this is Brazil right here. So the Brazilians, those are our people. They had to cut sugar cane in the hot sun. Bible telling you what? These are the Israelites. Read. I'm sorry, this slide. Yeah, keep this slide right here. More images of us picking cotton. So you had blacks picking cotton, Mexicans picking fruit, Brazilians cutting sugar cane. We ain't getting a dime from that. That's free labor. Free labor. They built this place up off of free labor. Next slide. Read that verse.
Verse 35. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sword, a sore box that cannot be healed, for the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head.
Going into more disease. That's why we suffer from it so hard. Next slide. More images showing you what? Disease. Our people suffer from that. Why? We don't listen to God. Read. Next slide.
Verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee.
Stop right there. You know why I want to stop right here? Because they always say, when it kings that was on the slave ships? Yeah, some of them was kings. But look what God said they finna go. Read.
The Lord shall bring thee and the king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
Stop right there. So yeah, we had kings that went into slavery. They was kings, but shackles and chains on, that don't matter. They going into slavery right with us. You know?
They don't teach that in Black history.
They don't. That's why I asked these questions. Because I was in college. I didn't hear this in college. The book was slave ships, Jim Crow, and then politics. Some stuff today. What about all of this when we going over now? Read.
And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
It said, once we get to these places where we're going to be slaves at, we're going to serve other gods, learn about other gods. Wood and stone. The wood is Christianity. The cross, Christianity used the cross to symbolize their religion. You know what that stone is? Islam. A lot of black people think Islam, that's the black religion. No, that's the religion of the Arabs. Just like the white man forced Christianity on us, the Arabs forced Islam on us when they had us enslaved. Next slide. So, here's an example. And we're not supposed to do that. That's in the Big Ten. Thou shalt have no other God before me. That's in the Ten Commandments. It says not to bow down to any image of stone or anything in the land. Read that real quick. Leviticus 26:1. Hold that. So this right here, Christianity teach you to do this. And the Bible says not to do this. Let's read what the Bible says. Because this stuff we don't know.
Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven images, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land.
So these is images of wood that they build up for people to worship, pray to. We're not supposed to do that. You just read that in the Bible. So the world telling us to do this, but God telling us to do something totally different. We're supposed to listen to what God says, not what man says. Next slide. This image, unfortunately, this is in Brazil. I guess this is an image of when they was building it. It's fully built now. That's a giant image of the false Jesus. Because Jesus Christ is a black man. Let's prove that real quick. Get Revelation 1. They got this in Brazil. This thing is humongous. This thing is tall as a building. But that's not how Christ looked. Christ looked like you and me. Christ looked like us in here. But they got this in here for who? Our people in Brazil. Our people running at it, they be praying to it, taking pictures next to it, and that's not even how he looked. Read that.
All right, 14.
Yes, sir.
Revelation chapter 1 verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
So the first thing the Bible says about Christ, he has white, woolly hair. Who has hair like wool? What people? Black people, us. Blacks and Hispanics. Don't be fooled by Telemundo and them other channels where they always find somebody real light skinned. Hispanics got hair like wool too. That's how the Bible says Christ looked. When Christ walked the earth, the Bible says, well, he is a black man. Christ is a black man. And Christ is an Israelite. So if Christ is an Israelite and he's black, what color are the Israelites? Black. We are the Israelites. Read.
As white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
His eyes was red because he drunk wine. When people drink, why so their eyes get red? Read.
And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace.
And it say his feet was like the color of brass burned in the furnace. Anything you burn, what color is it? Dark. So he wasn't just, brown skin, he was dark skin, super dark skin. That's a black man. Christ is a black man. So now, I believe you said he's black. Now you can go in the Bible and show somebody, no, Christ black. That picture you got wrong. Christ black. You can show them. Next slide. And again, this stuff they don't teach us. Knowing that Christ is black is very important. Let's read 66.
Verse 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life.
So during 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, all the time during slavery, we never had assurance of our life. We never knew if we was going to live or die. It's the same thing today. Only us as a people, we had those thoughts in our mind, especially the young men. Young men barely making it past 21 now. So we don't never know if we're going to live or not. God said, I'm going to put that mind state on you because you don't listen. Read on, verse 67.
Verse 67. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even?
So God said in the morning you're going to wish it was nighttime. That's how scared and terrified you're going to be. Remember, we was getting lynched. You had the Ku Klux Klan burning us, killing us. Even today, you don't know if you're going to get killed when you get pulled over by the police. You don't know if you're going to get killed mistaken identity. You don't know if your own people going to do something to you. This is the fear that we have on us. Because what? We did not listen to God. Read on.
And at even thou shalt say, with God it were morning.
He said when it's nighttime, you're going to wish it was morning. Read.
For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
We're going to be fearful for all the things we don't see. Why? Because we don't listen to God. That's that punishment. He put that fearful spirit, that fearful mind state on us. Next slide. Got that next slide? Let's read that verse. 9. After you see all these things, and you still like, I don't know if that's us. This right here was the nail in the coffin for me when I read this verse. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
This is why I asked y'all about Moses. When you look up that history about Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt, when they left out of Egypt, was they on a boat? How they walked. When you look at a map, Egypt in Africa, Egypt is in Africa. It's right there. So when they left Egypt, they walked out. Why is Moses saying the Lord is going to bring you into Egypt again with ships? Why is he saying that? Got that?
Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2.
So we going to Exodus 20 and 2 to show us what does Egypt mean in this verse. Because it's not talking about literally Egypt. God had Moses use that as an example. Read.
I am the Lord thy God, which hath brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
So Egypt means bondage. And if you don't know what Egypt means, just look up what was happening to the Israelites when they was in Egypt. They was in slavery. So when we go back to this verse, let's read that verse again.
And the Lord shall, verse 68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So now we done put the puzzle piece together. God told Moses to tell us, you don't listen to me, you're going to go back into slavery, because that's what you was doing in Egypt, with ships. Who went into slavery on slave ships? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. When you read the book Black Indians, some Indians, Native Americans, was taken from America to England as slaves on slave ships. You can look this up. Only the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans was put into slavery on slave ships. That's how you know you're an Israelite. You're the only people on the face of this earth that fit these things. Read on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
The same way I said it, that's how it's going to happen. Did it not? Same way God said all this stuff was going to happen. That's how it happened to us. Same way, in detail. Read.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
What is the it? Our homeland. What is our homeland? Because we think we say our homeland is Africa. But where in Africa? Israel. Let's get the proof. Galatians 4:26. Our homeland is Israel. Jerusalem. That's our homeland. But we going to the Bible to prove what we talking about. Too many times we have been taught things or told things and nobody give us proof. We giving you proof right here. Images, historical facts. You are an Israelite. You're not black, you're not African. These is terms they put on us. We are the Israelites. We are God's chosen people.
Galatians chapter 4, verse 26. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all.
So that's where civilization started at, really. But they tell you it started in Rome or somewhere crazy. No, that's where all life came from right there. That's the motherland, Jerusalem. So we know where we from in Africa, because Jerusalem is in Africa. They just created what they call Suez Canal and broke it off from Africa. But that's in Africa. Next slide. Oh, we gotta finish that verse because there's some more on there. Go back. 28:68. Because it said, thou shalt see it no more again. That's our homeland. We didn't see Jerusalem again once they put us on them slave ships. It was over with. Read on.
And there you shall be sold.
Oh, so after we get off the boat, what's going to happen to us? Read that again.
And there you shall be sold.
You shall be what?
Sold.
Sold. So after we get off the slave ships, even if you ain't got no knowledge of this, okay, he said we're going to go into slavery, got shipped, then when we get off the boat, we're going to be sold. All I got to do is get a history book and line it up with the Bible. Who was that? They got off a slave ship and started getting sold. Read.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies.
Your friends,
Your enemies.
your friends,
Your enemies.
your partners,
Your enemies.
your enemies. So we got sold to our enemies. We got enemies. It ain't each other. It ain't the brother that live next door or down the street, the person that look like you. No. It's the same people that put us on the boats. Those are our enemies. We finished?
For bondmen and bondwomen.
Go back to that slide. So I'm going to point out these words. Go ahead, bondmen and
For
bondwomen.
bondmen and bondwomen. And no man shall buy you.
So that buy right there, that means redeem. That got another meaning. They ain't talking about like buy because we was bought. So no man was going to be able to redeem you, save you. Nobody could save us. Nat Turner rose up, but what happened to him? He was killed. You know what happened to him? He got lynched, his body cut up, and they used some of his body as, they charred it down and made his body into wagon grease. They recently, a couple of years ago, just gave his family back his skull. His skull. They had his skull and his sword. You can look this up. They recently gave his family back his skull. You follow what I'm saying? Your skull. They recently gave this back to his family. They had this man's skull and the sword that he used when he was fighting slave masters. Still got his sword, gave his skull back to him. Next slide. So, Southern Kingdom, slavery. The blacks enslaved on slave ships. Something that they don't show a lot of times or go into when we in school, they don't tell you what happened on these boats. On these boats, we was getting killed on the boat. Women was getting raped on the boat. There's a new series called The Book of Negroes. They show you this. Look what you see right here. White man about to rape his sister. And then guess what? If you got sick, too sick, what you think they'll do to you? Throw you off the boat. It's a scene in the Book of Negroes. There was a pregnant woman on a slave ship. Look at it. I want y'all to watch that.
Is that a movie?
No, that's a TV series, The Book of Negroes. She was pregnant. The slave master was going to throw her off the boat because she was pregnant. He didn't think he was going to get enough money for her. These are things that happen to us. Next slide. So, they weren't just boats. These is cargo ships. So on cargo ships, you're supposed to have cargo. With these cargo ships, we was the cargo. Watch the movie La Amistad. On La Amistad, they show you we was on these is shelves. They had us on shelves. See how you got stuff in here that's on shelves, items? We was on shelves. So on the top shelf, you might be on the top shelf, I might be on the bottom shelf. Then you might have a woman who over both of us on the other shelf. She on her menstrual cycle. That stuff dripping down. You sick, you throwing up. I'm up under you, I'm on the other shelf. All that stuff dripping down on me. This is what was happening on the slave ships. That's why a lot of us died. Some of us was killed on there, thrown off. But some of us died on here due to sickness. You think they was cleaning? You got pregnant women, women on their menstrual, people getting sick, people pooping, peeing. This is what was happening to us. Friends don't do that to friends. Who did that to us? Our enemies. Why God let it happen? Because we didn't listen to him. Don't forget that. Next slide. Here's a more in-depth photo. Ain't no room. Ain't no, can I get a bigger space? No. You finna lay right here. Oh, you got a problem with it? Off the boat. Or a gunshot. We'll put a sword through you. But this way you're going to be. Next slide. Northern Kingdom, the Hispanics, that's what we're about to go into. The Hispanics being brought into slavery. What you have here, this is what a lot of Hispanics don't know. Majority of Hispanics, they follow the religion of what? Catholicism, being Catholic. You ever seen them making the sign of the cross? But what they don't know, what they don't teach them in school, those are our brothers. They don't teach them, that was by force. They forced these religions on us. You know what he's doing? He's presenting the Hispanics before the Spaniard king. Look at him, we got him trained. He's a Catholic now. Got him bowing down to this white man. Next slide. So, the Northern Kingdom slavery, the Hispanic slavery. So Columbus viewed the Taino themselves as a way to amass his personal wealth. So when he saw the Hispanics, when he came over here, he saw like, oh, okay, I can make money off of them. I can do something with these people. Well, we can benefit. Because what they say, Columbus discovered America. He didn't discover nothing. He came over here to rob, steal, and kill. That's what they don't tell you in school. That man came over here killing people. Him and all the Spanish. And what happened when they saw that they could benefit from it, they told the rest of the white folks in Europe. Then you had the English come over here. The French come over. The Dutch, the Portuguese, they all started coming and taking whatever they could. So it says, from here, it says he selected 500 to be exported to Spain as slaves and 500 to serve as slaves to the Spanish on the island. So that's showing you Hispanics got put on slave ships as well. Showing you what? They are the Israelites. Those are our brothers. Next slide. So here's the image. This is a real image. This is what the Spanish did to the Hispanics. This is what our brothers don't know. They think it was just blacks that was in slavery. No, you was in slavery with us. Look at what's happening to them. You see them down here, they collecting their funds, their money, and you see them, they got our people up there working. Beating them, whipping them, building stuff for them. And then you look up here, what are they teaching them? You see that? That's a cross. They're teaching them Christianity. They beating them, killing them, raping them, lynching them. They was getting lynched too. That's them hanging from trees. So while all this going on, they teaching them Christianity. You see that? We're not supposed to be following Christianity. We learn that in slavery. Next slide. More images. More images. This is the Spanish, Northern Kingdom. The Spanish killing the Hispanics. Look at this. Spanish man putting a spear through a Hispanic man. Look at that. You was going to either be a Catholic or die. That's what they was doing to us. You going to go dig for gold for me or die. That's what they was doing. Sicking dogs on us. We saw this image before. Look at this. They're taking the clothes off a woman. What you think they finna do to her? They finna rape her. This is what they was doing to our people when they came over here. Don't believe that crap they say in school was lies. They came over here to rob, steal, and kill. Another image. What they hanging in front of him? What they got in front of his face? What's that? A cross. Become Christian, become a Catholic, or die. This brother right here, his name is Atahualpa. He actually said no. So they killed him. You're either going to be Catholic or die. He chose to die. But this is what they was doing. This is the history they don't teach them in school. They were forced to be Catholic. Next slide. More images. So as you see, if we go again, Spanish. He has a Hispanic baby by the ankles. You see this? These are your enemies. These are not your friends. Hanging them up at 13s to represent Christ and the disciples. You got a Spaniard right here. He's starting to fire up. They already hanging from nooses, but he want to put fire underneath them and burn them. Down here, more torture, more killing. Down here, this is a woman and her baby. Hung the woman up by a rope and hung her baby. This is what the Spanish did to the Hispanics, the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans. This is what they was doing to them when they came over here. So it wasn't just us suffering. Our brothers were suffering as well. Right here. You know what's happening? They cutting off their hands and feet if they don't bring enough gold. That's the same thing that was happening to the blacks if we didn't bring enough cotton. The same things was happening to us. Give me Jeremiah 50:33. Judah and Ephraim all pressed together. Because I know blacks and Hispanics, we bumping heads. We don't even know we brothers. We suffered the same things. Same things happening to us. Just different slave masters. That's why we speak different languages. We had the English over us. They had the Spanish over them, so they were speaking what? Spanish. Our original language is Hebrew. But all that got washed away when they came. They forced us to learn their ways. Read that.
Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together.
Judah, that's the blacks. Israel, that's the Hispanics and natives. We was oppressed together. We was oppressed together. Next slide. This stuff they don't teach in school. Again, war history with the Hispanics being enslaved. The nation robbing an Indian chief of his wife. Read that again in Deuteronomy real quick. 28 and verse 30.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 30.
So that wasn't just the blacks whose wives was being taken from them and raped. Read that again.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
The nation robbing an Indian chief of his wife. Showing you the Native Americans going through the same thing. Why? Because we brothers, we the same people. Next slide. So, give me Exodus 20 and 2. Talking about Egypt now. And go into that.
Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which hath brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
So Egypt means bondage, house of bondage. This ain't literal Egypt, but it has similarities to it. It's very similar. Why? The Israelites is in slavery here, just like they was in slavery in Egypt. That's why you see these symbols. This on the back of the dollar. The pyramid. All this stuff is not here because it looked cool, or because they thought the money was going to look nice. All this stuff means something. It's an obelisk. That same type of statue, that's in Egypt. Why? Because this is spiritual Egypt. The Israelites in slavery here, just like they was back then. Next slide. Let's read that 28 verse 45.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
So all these bad things was going to follow us until we be destroyed. Why? We did not listen. Don't forget that. Read on.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So it's not because we not smart. We the smartest people on the face of this earth. That's why you can have a young man, he grow up in Garfield Park, and this brother know how to build a piano or something. You'll have something like that happen. He skipped 3-4 grades. He's 16 in college. You'll put us in the worst predicament, and we'll still rise above that. So it's not because we're not smart. It's because we're not listening to God. Read on.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So you may say to yourself, okay, I see all these bad things, but what is the purpose of these bad things? Believe it or not, these curses, these bad things are a sign to show what? Who God's people are. That's why we can stand here right now. We can show y'all that you are the Israelites. Why? By the things that's written in them. We the only people that fit that. Read verse 46 again. I'm not even go somewhere else. Read verse 46.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
For a sign. Right now, it's a sign out there that say North Avenue in Massasoit. That sign show us what? That we will be on North Avenue in Massasoit. So when I get the Bible, The Bible is going to show me when I read it who God's people are by these things that's listed here. Because only God's people are going to go through this stuff. In Romans 8 and verse 16. So when you read the Bible without a shadow of a doubt, who fit all this stuff? We do. We are God's people. So we're not going through what we're going through because that's just what it is. It's because we're not listening to God. All we had to do from the beginning was listen to Him. When you read the Bible, we would never listen. So because we didn't listen, these things would happen to us over and over and over again. Read
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God.
That spirit is talking about the Bible. Meaning what? When I read the Bible, when we read the Bible, and we start connecting the dots to the things the Bible's saying, wait a minute, that's us. We was the only ones put on slave ships. We was the only one our wives taken from us, children taken from us. That's us. We the only ones gonna connect with those things. Y'all connecting with what's being shown right now? Y'all relating to it? Next slide. Read verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies. Thy enemies.
So God said, not only when you go through all these things, you're going to serve your enemies. All the other races of people, believe it or not, those are our enemies. Wow. Look at all those things they did to us. A friend does not do those things to you. That's why they keep us on the bottom. That's why you ever heard of the school to prison pipeline? Who's affected by that? That's us. They build jails to put us in them. Blacks and Hispanics, they the highest rate of race that's in the jail. Cook County, majority blacks and Hispanics. I'm talking about the county on 26th Street. That's majority blacks and Hispanics in that jail. Read.
Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
So the Lord sent the white man against us. The Lord sent the Spanish against us, the Portuguese, the French. Don't forget why? Because we would not listen to Him. He said, if you listen to me, I give you everything. We said, no, we want to do what we want to do. So He said, okay, I'm going to send your enemies against you. And what's going to happen? Read.
In hunger.
So we're going to have to serve them in hunger. Who owns Walmart? We don't. Who owns Kroger? We don't. Food for Less? We don't. All we don't. It's hard for a black or Hispanic man to own a store. And then even if you do own it, who you got to get your food from? Them. Read.
And in thirst.
Thirst. You'll get taxed if you collect rainwater. Aquafina, Dasani, Ice Mountain. We don't own none of these water companies. We have to go to them to get water. This is a punishment that God put on us for not listening to Him. We can't even get our own water. We got to go to somebody else to get it. Read.
And in nakedness.
Nakedness. What type of hoodie it is you got on? Your friend made it, so he stamped his name on them. But that hoodie, he had to buy that hoodie from somebody. He didn't make the hoodie himself. Just like me, if I want to make some shirts, I got to buy the shirts from somebody's store and then put my logo on them. Go back. We ain't finished with that. We're going to go back to that. Read on.
And in want of all things.
You want to go to school, you have to go to them, to their schools. We don't have our own schools. We don't have our own institution. Some way, shape, or form, we have to go to our enemies, the other races, in order to do things. When you die, you got to go to City Hall, their City Hall. Your family got to get the death certificate. When you want to get married, you got to go to their City Hall to do that. We don't have our own City Hall, the Black City Hall, the Hispanic City Hall. We have to go to somebody else. God said you have to go to Him for all things. Read on.
And He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until He have destroyed thee.
He's going to put chains on your neck until He have destroyed you. Meaning the chains will come off when you destroy. Now, you a Christian, you don't ask why. You a Catholic and you don't ask why. You celebrate Thanksgiving and you don't ask why. Christmas and you don't ask why. You celebrate Easter. I'm mentioning that. That's a recent one. Bunnies don't lay eggs, but you still do it. Who taught us that? Our enemies taught us these things. That's the thing about us. They say if you want to have something from a nigga, put it in a book. We don't like to read. You read up on this stuff, you'll find out the truth. Go back to them pictures, them images. Let's look at these images. Showing you what? SNAP, Supplement Nutrition Assistance Program. A lot of us depend on that, but you know who owns that? Our enemies own that. SNAP, EBT. We have to go to them for the things that we need to survive. That's a punishment. Next slide. Social Security card. All these things we gotta have. Why? Because we did not want to listen to God. We'd rather do what we want to do than listen to God. So all of this is a result of us not listening. Next slide. Yokes of iron. We've been seeing this. This is a real photo. Wilson Chin, a branded slave from Louisiana. He got shackles on his feet, shackles on his neck. You just read that in the Bible, true book. But it said you don't have yoke of iron on your neck until you have been mentally destroyed. That's how we destroy. We don't know the truth. They don't gotta chain us no more. We ain't looking for the truth no more. Now it's time for us to look for the truth, come back to who we are. Believe it or not, I wanted to stop and look at this. This is Escrava Mastica Brazil. What is that clothing line? Can't think of it. Long story short, they put this image on one of their shirts and had one of their models walking down the runway with it. This image. So that's funny. That's a joke. I can't remember if it's Balenciaga. I don't know the name of them. They one of them type. Louis Vuitton, might have been Louis Vuitton. Put this on one of their shirts. So this is a t-shirt. Your people, our people, with yoke of iron on their face, they gonna make that a t-shirt. But we so destroyed, we'll put it on and wear it. Next slide.
Not understanding.
No understanding. That's why we here. That's why we doing this, to give our people understanding, to give y'all some understanding. Read that verse 49.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee.
Talking about the same people that put us in those shackles and chains. A nation against thee from far. That white man come from Europe. They came from Europe to America, put the Hispanics, the Native Americans into slavery, got us from the west coast of Africa, brought us over here, put us into slavery. Read on.
From the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies.
Why is this important? What's their favorite symbol they like to use? The eagle. They love that bird. That's a bird of prey. It's on their money, and these is different Caucasian races. The Spanish, what's their symbol on their flag? The eagle. The Dutch, the eagle. Eagle. Germans, eagle. America, eagle. Eagle. Russia, eagle. They love that bird. So God is telling you who did this to us. If you clueless, it said they're going to be as swift as the eagle flyeth. They're going to come from far, Europe. They're going to have the symbol of the eagle. Read on.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
When it says a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, some of them spoke English, some of them spoke French, some of them spoke Portuguese, German, Russian. We didn't understand those languages. Read.
A nation of fierce countenance.
They was going to be ruthless. I encourage y'all to watch these movies and see what they was doing to us. Chopping off hands, chopping off feet, killing pregnant women, hanging pregnant women. It's a picture called Strange Fruit. They hung a whole family in the tree. The grandma, the mama, the daddy, the little kids. Nina Simone made a song about that, Strange Fruit. She ain't talking about fruit. She talking about black bodies hung in the tree for being lynched. A nation of fierce countenance. Read.
Which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Go back to that slide. It said they're not going to regard the person of the old or show favor to the young. They didn't care if he was old or young. Go back to that picture. I want to show this picture of the older gentleman with the shackles on his neck. Go back to that slide. I want to show that. This somebody's grandfather. They didn't care. That's somebody's grandfather. They didn't care. Shackle and chain. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. More images. No regard for the old and young. You saw this image. Now it's full. They telling him what? Become a Catholic or you gonna die. He chose to die. He wasn't finna get converted to being a Catholic. This is one of our Hispanic brothers, man. The Caucasian man, the Spanish man was torturing. Over here, same thing. The Spanish again, doing this to the Hispanics. Burning them alive. They're not gonna show you this in school. In school, they're going to say, slave ships, Jim Crow, and everybody have a nice day. We didn't have no nice day. This is what they don't show us. Next slide. Again, murder and killing us. Got him tied to a pole and they beat him with whips. They chased, these is women. Look, these is women. He finna hit her across the head. Maybe she didn't have enough gold. Maybe she didn't bring what he asked to bring. He's finna hit her across the head over here. This is what they was doing. So when they lie to us and they say, oh, don't worry about that. Everything was okay. Let's celebrate. No, ain't no celebration because you was murdering us. Over here, finna kill a baby. You saw this earlier. That's the Spanish doing that to the Hispanics. Next slide. Let's read verse 51. Verse 51.
And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed.
He came over here to this side of the earth, ate up all the resources, took everything. That's a common trait of the so-called white man. He come to countries and lands, steal everything, suck it all up dry. And then the people that live there, that's from there, they have nothing. Look at the Native Americans today. They on reservations. A lot of them suffer from being alcoholics. A lot of Native American women is going missing. These is things that's going on right now that they not telling our people about. Read on.
Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind.
So God said, not only is these people going to take everything from you, they ain't going to leave you a crumb. So they stuck the Native Americans on reservations in the middle of nowhere with nothing. A reservation ain't nothing but a ghetto. That's it. Stuck them in the ghetto with nothing. Read on.
Or flocks of thy sheep until he have destroyed thee.
Take everything until he have destroyed us. Verse 52.
Verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates.
So besiege means if you watch them older like medieval time movies with knights and they surround the castle and they take it over. That's what happened to us. Any cities, towns we had, they surrounded it, took it over, and destroyed it. Read.
Until thy high and fenced walls come down.
Until thy high and fenced walls come down. In Jerusalem, we had big, tall walls surrounding us when we was ruling. God said, I'm going to have all that get tore down. Why? You don't listen. Read.
Wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee.
So the Lord gave us that land, but it got taken away from us because we did not listen to God, we disobeyed God, so he took everything away. Next slide. So here's what happened. Because you hear Jerusalem is our homeland, but you probably like, well, how did we get to this point? So in 70 AD, you can look this up, 2 Roman generals, Titus and Vespasian, they came to Jerusalem, they surrounded Jerusalem, wouldn't let us in or out, destroyed it and burned it down. They then took us and began to sell us all over the world. So we were slaves even in Rome. You can look this up. Next slide. This is a real statue. This is the Romans, the white man, leaving out of Jerusalem with what you have here, menorah. This is one of the things that Moses commanded the men to make. And all our wealth, all our money, all of our stuff, taking that stuff out of Jerusalem. Next slide. Verse 53, you read verse 53.
Verse 53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy own sons, and of thy daughters.
So what is that saying? That's saying what? When the siege happened, because they didn't let us in or out, a lot of us resorted to cannibalism. Cannibalism is eating people. It got that bad for us. Why? Because we did not listen to God. Jump to 55.
Verse 55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thy enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates.
So we didn't have anything. When they took over our city, we was left with nothing, ended up eating our own children, we was getting killed, taken into slavery. This is what happened. This is how we got taken out of Jerusalem. Next slide. Here's an image of cannibalism. This is what was happening to us. What we ended up doing to each other. They didn't let us in or out. Next slide. Next slide. So what has happened to us as a result of us not following what God says? These bad things, what curses happen to us, and you get broken families. Marriages don't last. We got high divorce rate in the Black and Hispanic community. Do we not? You rarely see people with mothers and fathers. Next slide. Next slide. Read verse 60.
Verse 60. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee.
So he said, I'm going to bring disease upon you. We looked at these images of disease. Read.
Verse 61. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of the law.
So he said he's going to put disease on you that's not written in the Bible. What's some diseases we suffer from that's not written in the Bible? Cancer, AIDS, gonorrhea, syphilis, COVID-19. These are diseases he brought upon us for not listening to him. Next slide. So here's some different images here. Diabetes. That's not written in the book of this law, but we suffering from it. Measles, flu, COVID-19. God brought these things upon us for not listening. Next slide. HIV, chlamydia, herpes, HPV. We suffer from all this. Great plagues of long continuance. These are diseases that a lot of times there's no cure for. You have them until you die. Next slide. Next slide. Verse 64.
Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
So we got scattered throughout the whole world. Read.
And there thou shalt serve other gods.
We learned to follow other gods outside of the God in this Bible. Read.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
None of our fathers, the men that came before us, the women that came before us, knew about these other gods. Read.
Even wood and stone.
Christianity, Islam. Next slide. More images. That's a false image. A lot of little kids, you ask them, what does Jesus look like? They point to that. But we know Christ is a black man. We showed y'all that. Next slide. More false images. I'm sure y'all have seen these in churches. This is all lies. Christ is a black man. Next slide. So this image, this is not just anybody they just painted. This is actually a real man. This is Cesare Borgia. He was the illegitimate son of Pope Alexander VI, or Rodrigo Borgia. That's Rodrigo Borgia's son they got hanging in churches. And they telling the world that that's Jesus, and it's not. This stuff we don't read, we don't ask about. Last slide. And like we showed y'all, Christ is a black man. We are the Israelites. We're going to end it there. I hope y'all got a lot out of this presentation. All right? Y'all got any questions?
don't have to. I will check out some of the movies you recommend too.
All right. Did y'all get flyers? Make sure y'all read the information on the flyers. We on division and costing. All right. Any questions, call us. Hope y'all got a laugh.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you. It's nation time.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, His word